Hi everyone, it's Karen from Karen's Crafting Company, and today I'm going to show you how I smashed the rest of this paper pad called Spring Garden by Park Lane. Beth from Bourbon Creek Crafts hosts the Smash Your Stash collab, and she shares her process on her YouTube channel, and she also has it on her Facebook page. And every month for her collab, she will present challenges. And for the month of April, it was free choice, and I decided that for my free choice, it would be to use up my scraps. When I was working with this pad, I definitely had a lot of scraps left over, and I really wanted to use them up. So I thought, here's my perfect opportunity. And with that said, let me show you everything that I made using the rest of these sheets of paper and all the scraps. So because I only had 3 sheets left, and I went ahead and I used Crafty L's sheet loads. And I'm starting here with the April 2020. And as I go through all the cards that I'm going to show you, you will see that I am using 3 different sentiments. And that is because these cards are being donated to scrapbook.com's Cards for Kindness program, and they are looking for 3 specific themes, and it was congratulations, happy, and hello. So those were the 3 themes that I was focused on when I was making these cards. So here, as you can see, with using Crafty L's April 2020 sheet load, I was able to make a total of 6 cards. Now you see there's only 5 here. So what I did is I took one of them and I actually mailed it to Crafty L. And I, sent it to her to share with her Show Us Your Sheet Load video that she does at the end of each month. Now for this sheet load, it called for 3 sheets of the pattern paper. However, one of the sheets didn't really match these 2 that I have here. So I went ahead and took some cardstock and I used my small dots embossing folder to create my 3rd sheet of pattern paper, if you will. The second sheet load here is the October 2020, and this called for 8 cards, and I actually doubled it and was able to make 16. And you'll see here that the original sketch calls for that colored cardstock, and what you do is you are to place the stamp directly on that cardstock if you're following the sketch. And what I did here is after I already picked my black cardstock and cut it out, I realized that I could have used a white ink or white embossing powder, but I really wanted to keep I wanted to use the black ink. So all I did is I went into my scraps and used that same color cardstock for my sentiment that I used as the mat for that green piece of patterned paper that you see there. So I did that for 8 of my cards. And then the next sheet load that I used was the April 2021, and this was her mini slimline version. And here I was able to make a total of 10, but again, you will see 9 here because again, I took one of those cards and I mailed it to Crafty L for her Show Us Your Sheet Load video. And you'll see that with some of the pattern paper, the strips here that I'm going to show you, you know, it called for, you know, that wider piece. I don't remember the measurements off the top of my head, but I had a couple of strips that didn't meet those measurements, but I went ahead and used them anyway, and I think they turned out really cute. And that took care of the sheet loads that I used from Crafty L. And now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and show you all the cards that I made from all the scraps that I had left over. So all those sheet loads that I made that I just showed you were from those 3 sheets of pattern paper that were left in my pad. So now I'm going to show you everything that I made with all the scraps that I had left over from this pad. So these are cut aparts, and I did have a few of those left over. So all I did is I took one of my stamps and I used my VersaFine Clair orange ink, and then I heat embossed that with clear embossing powder just to give it that little shine. Hopefully you can see that. And then here I used my Spellbinders sentiment die set, and I just cut out the word congrats and I placed it on the center of that cut apart. And here are the sketches that I ended up using for the rest of the scraps. And here I am starting with the Mojo Monday sketch number 531, and that's the one on the left hand side. And I was able to make 4 of those, and you know, I used the purple that you see. That was actually some paper that I had in my scraps, and what I used for my card front was I have this pack of all these papers in here. In this envelope that you see are embossed from folders that I've had, and you know, I've had these left over, and I thought, well, you know what, since we're using scraps, let me go ahead and pull these out. I don't know that I would necessarily call these scraps. They just haven't been used on projects that I've been holding on to. So I was able to pull a few of these out and, you know, use them on several of my card fronts. So here I used the quilted square embossing folder for that. And you know, again, they were in different colors because the previous project that I was working on, I needed a variety of colors, and I was cutting those quilt squares into individual pieces. And now for the rest of these sketches, you're going to see I use Operation Right Home, and I was able to download all of their sketches. On their website, they had a link, and I very much liked their sketches, and I had, downloaded them, and I basically printed them out, and now I have them here, and I store them in a binder. And anytime I'm doing bulk card making, I, bring out the OWH sketches, and I look through, and I do use them quite a bit. So here, this is sketch number 10. And these were really fun because I was really excited because I was able to use quite a few of some embellishments and other pieces that that got used up. So I'm just showing you here that I pretty much did what the sketch called for, and again using those scraps. So those butterfly stickers that you see on the tags, I was able to use those up, so I was super excited. And that embossing folder, I actually did make that. That did not come out of my stash that I showed you earlier. I had enough of this cardstock that I was able to, make 8 of those card fronts. And then, again, those tags, those were also in my stash, and I was able to use all those tags up. So I don't have any more of those tags. So that was exciting to be able to use those up. Now I have other tags, just not of this particular size or shape. And I used a variety of butterfly stickers because I do have quite a bit of those. And then I just used my Creative Memories corner round punch, and just rounded that one corner on the sentiment. And those are puffy stickers. It's hard to see on camera, but they are puffy stickers. They're super cute in person. And that's sketch number 10. Next, I'm moving on to sketch number 18. And you can see here I'm trying to find the sketch, and there it is. So I pretty much followed this sketch as you see there. Again, just using up those scraps and cutting them down to make those squares. Again, I had a lot of scraps, so I was really happy to be able to make as many cards as I did. And that's empty. I didn't put a sentiment on the front of these, and I think what I'm going to do is I have the Hello sentiment from the Spellbinders set, and I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll cut that out and then add it to the front. Now here is sketch number 20, and as you see, there's the Hello sentiment that I was telling you about. So I'll just go back, I'll dig into my other scraps, and I'll see what colors I have that will match the pattern papers, and then I'll just cut that out. And again, I did that green that I was pointing to was an embossing folder that was used, that came out of that stash. It's really kind of hard to see, and I did change the direction of this. They have it as a horizontal, but I made it a vertical. And now moving on to sketch number 26. Again, the card fronts, that was an embossing folder. And you see a lot of these scallop circles that I have. So the great thing about this is I have this whole pack. There were about 200 of those circles. And I put the measurements on there. Basically, these circles, scallop circles, came from my daughter's door hangers that we made for her for Girl Scout cookie season. Instead of going door to door, in person, we did door hangers. And in order for the door hanger to hang on the door, we had to punch holes. And for whatever reason, my circle punch didn't work, and I had my scallop punch, and I went ahead and just cut it out that way. And I had all these scallop circles left over, and there was no way I could throw them out. And I thought, I could use these. So, whether I stamped directly on them, which as you can see with these cards, that's exactly what I did. I could also ink blend them. I could even handwrite on there. There's plenty of options that, I could use these for. And I was super excited that I was able to, dig in there and get those out and start using them. And as you can see, I definitely have several left, but it's actually less than 200 now. And then again, I brought in the embossing folder. That's the quilted squares. That was in, that envelope that I showed you earlier. And then this one, I was just playing around one day, and I was using textured pastes and re-inkers, and I, mixed all that up, and I did used my stencil, and it worked great. That I was, I just put it. I didn't use it at the time, and I had just set it aside, and when I made these cards, the color of it just went very well with this paper pad. So this is sketch number 43, and that is the top left. And again, I had a lot of those 3x4 size papers, and I was really trying to use those up, and this was definitely one of those sketches that I could use that for. And then here I'm moving on to sketch number 44, and this one of these black embossing card fronts that you see, I did have one of those in my stash, and I did go ahead and I just embossed another one because I had two of those stripes pattern papers, I had two of the scallop circles, I had two hellos, so I thought I would just get out my black cardstock, and I would just make another, use my embossing folder and just have a second one. So it worked out pretty well. And now I'm moving on to sketch number 154, which is definitely one of my favorites, especially when it comes to scrap paper, because you could see the different sizes. When you're getting down to those little bits of pieces, this is a great sketch to use your scraps on. And I think I made 8 of these. And here, if you look at that butterfly in the center and those two leaves, those are actually rub-ons that I had in my stash. So I brought those out and, started using those. And the strip that I used the congratulations on, I used my Creative Memories trimmer for that, and it comes with different shaped blades that you can use to, trim your paper. And I don't remember the name of the blade that I used here for this, but I really liked how it looked, and I had cut that for a different project, and I had that left in my scraps, so I cut it down and to the size it needed to be, and used it, and it matched perfectly with the papers. And a lot of my scraps too I did use on the inside of my cards, which is a great way to use scraps as well. And then the same thing here with my sentiment strip. Those are rub-ons, and again that strip was one long piece, and it was long enough that I was able to get 2. And that butterfly I actually fussy cut out of one of the pattern papers that I had left, and I just added a foam adhesive to the back to pop it up. And that took care of my sketch number 154. And now I'm moving on to sketch number 175. and that's there up in the top left corner. And again, this is another sketch that's great for scraps, especially when you get down to the really small pieces. So those are 1-inch squares that I was able to cut down to, and add those to the front. And I pretty much I modified the sketch slightly. In the center of those 4 squares, they don't have anything there, but I added a couple of embellishments, and I had those bling, and I still had some extras, so I just put those in the center. And then for this, I used my Hero Arts circle nesting dies, and I just cut out that circle, and then those ladybugs are actually stickers. And I just placed it on there and put some foam on the back of the circle and added it on. And I again used another embossing folder from Sizzix. This is the Swirl 3D, and I did have that in my pack of scraps. I know I shouldn't call it scraps because they're not scraps, but they were just left over from other projects, or just things that I was playing with on some scraps that I had laying around. So I definitely saved them, and I'm just happy to be using them up. Now these cards here, these are also from Crafty L's April 2020 sheet load. And the only thing I did different with this sheet load was I didn't mat the 3x4 pieces of pattern paper. I had those there, and I just added them to the front, and then again just adding more scraps to the inside. And again, using those scallop circles for my sentiments, I was able to use quite a few of those with this project. And then this last batch of cards, these were not, I did not use any sketches for these cards. And again, that pink paper that you see in the background, that was in my scraps as well, and I just pulled that out. I thought it went so perfectly with that butterfly pink pattern paper. And then I also used my Tim Holtz foil cardstock that I had in my stash, and brought out those pink sentiment strips that I had in my scraps and used those. It worked out perfect. And again, that purple is that embossing folder, that quilted squares that I used, and that was in my stash, and pulled it out, and I liked that the purple matched the some of the purple in that pattern paper. And I ended up having 2 cut aparts left, and I just added those on there, and I had those strips still left to use, and I thought they went great with those cut aparts. This was a fun card. So the embossing folder that I used here is called Modern Mosaic. Hope you can see that. Looks a little hard to see. And that's from Stampin' Up. And with that came the Scallop Punch. And not Scallop, the Mosaic Punch. And I had enough scraps that I was able to cut some of those out, and I just layered them on that mosaic pattern. And then I had that strip, to add to the inside. It came out really, really cute. Now I must say the next 4 cards that I'm sharing here are my absolute favorite. These, those strips of paper, it was like I had like 2 12x12 strips, and I really wanted to use those up. And I brought out my Tim Holtz stencil. I think it was just called Lines. And I used the Faded Jeans oxide ink to, as for the color. And I brought in some more of that foil to add as a border to the floral pattern paper. And then there, the butterfly is, from a stamp set that I have, and I stamped that on vellum, and I heat embossed it with clear ink because I used the VersaFine Clair orange. And then I fussy cut that butterfly out, and then I added the Hello sentiment was a lot of fun to make these cards. And now these other butterflies that you see, those are stickers, and they're actually like 3D, and they're really, really cool. So like the bottom part of it sticks directly, onto the card, and then the wings, are, they're three-dimensional. And I was able to use all those up, so I was super excited about that. So not only did I use up all the scraps, I was able to use other stickers that I've had for some time and, use them up. And those butterflies are from an a die that I have, and I had those in my stash, and I was able to use those up too. So I'm ready to go back now and take that butterfly die out and make some more butterflies for more projects. So here, this is kind of funny. I brought my pad in because I thought I was actually done sharing all my cards with you. And as you can see, there are still some on the left there that I have not shown you just yet. And here I'm like thinking I'm going to wrap up the video. And that's not the case. So here I realized that, oh, I still have more cards to share. Let me share these. So again, these have the embossing, I used the embossing folders. And again, those all came from my, my stash that I had stored away. And it's similar to Crafty L's sheet load, April's sheet load, but at that point I was pretty much running out of the 3x4 size, and I just layered one piece on each card, and it worked out really well. And again, adding more scraps to the inside and using up those scallop circles is just great. Again, just showing you the embossing folders that I used. All those papers were in my stash, and I just pulled them out and used them. It was great. And you can see it's one of my favorite embossing folders to use is the quilted squares. Now these two cards are they are A7 cards, also known as 5x7, and I was able to just take that sentiment and stamp it directly on the card base. So that was really cool. And then this one here, I used my studded leather 3D embossing folder, and I thought it just went really pretty with that pink paper. And that congratulations sentiment is actually from the Abstract Botanical stamp set from Crafty L. She designed this stamp set, and I was fortunate enough to be able to grab a set. So I'm really glad that I have that set, and I'm sure you will see other projects with that stamp set. So here I'm showing you the total number of cards that I was able to make, and with just the 3 sheets, I made, I believe it was 36, and then 52 were from all the scraps that I had left over. So, the fact that I was able to make a total of 88 cards with what I had left from this paper pad was super exciting. All right, friends, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it has inspired you to tackle one of your paper pads. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and click that bell for notifications, and don't forget to subscribe. Until my next video, I hope your day is a crafty one. Thanks, everyone.